Hello, hello. Today I had a call with my cousin sister and she was asking me about Tejas. I've completed my 10th class. Now I'm unsure what to do. So she was asking about career advice, where she can head towards, what are the different career options she has, and what's next for her career. And here I was thinking that, hey, even I had the similar problem when I have completed my 12th class 10 years back and I was completely unsure what to do. I just followed engineering because my friends were doing that and that was the only known option I had. But today I was thinking maybe I can have some sort of a counselor, or maybe I could have checked with some of the counselor, or I could create one. I could create an application that would act like a counselor. It would direct you about different career paths you have, and out of this career paths, out of this career paths, what maybe I'll quickly check. What are the different career paths you have? Let me minimize it. Okay, so now this application would tell you what are the different career paths you have, and it would tell you about which are the different options, or which are the different career options you have. And it would first understand you about your psychology, about your traits, about your values, and then determine about the career paths. So this application is called What's Next. What's next after the 12th or what's next in the career. So you can discover your career path with this application called What's Next. .tsabunka.com. And here it has, just ignore the left side, just focus on the right side of the application or the website. First it will ask you the psychology based questions, that or the traits and the values. Based on the traits and the values, it would try to determine what are the career options you have, and it will pick from your traits, it will pick the best career options. Rather than giving all the career options, it will curate it for the top 3 ones, and it will rank what suits you. And then it will tell you in terms of percentage as well. It will give you the salary package, how much you can expect as an average salary from this career path. And then if you want, or if you believe in astrology, you can refine your selection by opting for astrology as an option, and it will use the astrological science to determine your career options. So let me stop explaining you about this application and quickly dive into it. So as you go, what's next career option, click on the begin journey. It has a well animated sort of a chapters which will tell you a story, right? It'll tell you that, hey, you find a glowing chest deep in the forest, what will you do? Will you open it immediately, since you love surprises? Will you study it carefully before touching anything? Ask the forest spirits for the guidance first, maybe some sort of a gut feeling, or mark it in your own map and come back with your friend. Maybe I'll say, I'll just open it because I love surprises. Similarly, the question goes, huh? I'll go with second question as well. The path ahead splits into three. How do you choose? Follow the path feels right in my gut. Analyze the map and pick the shortest route. Wait for the fellow travelers and decide together. Take the path with the most interesting landmark. No, I'll go with the analysis part and try to pick up the shortest route. Okay, so I'll not go through all these questions now. I'll quickly select next, 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 and you see there are different chapters. This is a chapter of mountains, the mountain of strength, and here I have also ensured that there is a plant that would keep growing as a tree, as you progress with your questions, huh? Because there are 15 questions that you have to do it ritually or very carefully, I would say. And these questions are quite interesting, guys. By the way, let's see this question: what drives you to work every day? Building wealth and financial independence, making a real difference in people's life, becoming an expert at what I do, experiencing myself and creating something new, right? Like, you need to literally sit and think back and then opt for your choice, because based on your choice, your career would be decided. Okay, this is the cave of fear. You see this plant is growing right in the background. I'm just selecting the temple of purpose, the last chapter, chapter 5. We are there, we are almost there, and the tree is done. Okay, now here is where I was trying to say that if you really want to opt for the astrological part as well, you can by saying yes, or you can completely skip it since you don't believe in astrology. But I'll say yes. I'll enter my name, my date of birth, the time, and the place of my birth, and I'll click reveal my destiny. Okay, the inner eye of, oh, so it says your magical career path. And it, by the way, I've thought about an Hogwarts sort of a thing. And the idea was that the sorting hat, if you remember in the Hogwarts or in the Harry Potter, you have this sorting hat which would sort you as you enter to the to the Hogwarts school into different groups. So here it says I'm an Hufflepuff, I'm loyal, I'm patient, I'm hard work and fair. So it has opted me into Hufflepuff. By the way, I should have been very careful while opting it. Maybe I would have been a different, I would have sorted into a different group. And it says that what career option suits me better. It says that psychologist is the top one for me, which is gold, which is around 62%. Yoga instructor, which is 58%. And entrepreneur, which is 56%. As well, it says about, since I have opted for the astrology part as well, it says about what astrological sign it amplifies about me. I am an Jupiter because of my date of birth and time. As well, it says the average salary package 4 lakhs per annum for an psychologist. I'll come back to this. This is not hard coded, guys. This is something that is so that you don't blame me that teaches what did you create an application which says such a low average salary package, but rather it is coming live from a third party tool which we will showcase in the system design part. um, so yeah, this is coming from the live third party tool called Adzuna, where it fetches the live career path, the live salaries for each of the career path as well. Yeah, it says about the average salary package. And yeah, for the yoga instructor, for the entrepreneur, what are the average salary? I don't know why it is 4 lakhs for the psychologist. By the way, if I have refined my celestial readings for some other random date of birth and the date of time, the same answer from the psychological path, but different astrological answer would have opted a different career path for me. Huh? That's how it has been tuned to. Okay. Okay, that's the overall application. Let's quickly jump onto the system design part or the architectural part of the complete project. So, from the architectural path, I have, let's say, Peter Parker wants to know about his career, where he needs to head towards. Let's say that when he requests this what's next tsabunka.com, first his request would be routed to route 53, where I have the simple routing policy. From there it goes to CDN, then to S3. S3, it where our the front end application has been deployed to. Then there is a post call which fetches the career path, right? When we go, because the complete application and the algorithm is running in the front end, but when it needs to know the career paths and its average salary, at that time it would fetch from the Lambda service, the backend service, where the front end application makes a call to the backend service called what's next backend Lambda. Here, this Lambda is a Docker service. I'll explain why I have choose the Lambda as a Docker service or the Docker container. Why did I spin up a Docker container for the Lambda part? I'll come back to that. But this Lambda is a Docker service, and that would be fetching the live from this app, the third party app, to fetch the live salary data. One more component it uses is the parameter store to fetch the keys and values, because I did not want it to store it inside my code. Rather, I wanted to fetch it from the parameter store. Why parameter store? Why not secrets manager? We'll come back. Okay. And then, since I said this is a Docker service, it needs to pull the Docker image. It pulls the Docker image from the ECR, from the container registry. Okay. Which is an AWS service as well. But for the backend deployment part, there is a lot more. We'll come back to that. For now, just think about what are the different services we have on the very high level, because this is the complete high level end-to-end flow. And to quickly go through all the services, we'll quickly check how exactly it is. Let me uh, let me quickly show you the AWS services as well. So first and foremost, the Route 53 part. In the Route 53, the what's next T Sabunkar has been routed to CDN, as I said, D302. And from CDN, the cloud front, this is the one, D302. This deploys, this points to the S3, where our front end application is deployed. And the Lambda, as I said, the Lambda is what's next backend Lambda. This is the Lambda, what's next backend Lambda. And this Lambda is a Docker image, or it pulls from the Docker image. And this is a containerized application, the Docker containerized. And yeah, this pulls from the Docker image. This image is coming from the ECR, from the Amazon ECR registry, where it will pull the latest version here being v4.0.1, which it pulls, since it was pointing to 4.0.1, which it is pulling. And yeah, whenever there is a latest image in this ECR, this Lambda has been redeployed or recreated for this specific image, right? Okay, now the question arises, Tejas, why in the world did you choose the Docker image? Why did you choose to make the AWS Lambda to run as a Dockerized container? Yeah, because AWS Lambda, previously AWS Lambda had a limit of size around 512 MB, but now, because it wanted to keep it lean as it is a serverless model, but AWS now can host and run a container image. If you know, the Docker images or the container images are generally huge in size, right, around 10 GB. So this limitation of Lambda from 512 to 10 GB is now feasible. So you can deploy your serverless, by the way, Lambda is a compute engine which runs serverlessly, which is serverless, right? So now you can deploy a container, a Docker containerized image in a serverless fashion as well, thanks to this removal of limitation in size. But there are some limitation. Why? What are the what are the three limitations that you have if you use the Docker, the Lambda as a runtime container image? So the three limitations are, first and foremost, since it is not running continuously, right? Since it is not like a traditional server, in the traditional server fashion, if you have a Dockerized image that you will deploy in a server, and that server would keep running continuously. But since I said it is a serverless, Lambda is serverless, so it is only the Lambda only runs when it has been invoked. When does it gets invoked? When there is a front end call, or when there is a front end request, and you pay in the Lambda. It is pay as per use or pay as per go, that you pay as per the request that flows in, and that has been served. So in terms of cost, it is quite good, serverless. And it follows the distribution fashion of systems, right? Serverless follows that. So there is no continuous running how you used to have in the traditional server, typical Lambda. So in case the limitation is that the if you the container image only wakes up when there is a request call, or a request response sort of a call, a sync call, and it will shut down immediately. Lambda shutdowns once it is executed, it is finished, it shutdowns. So unlike your typical traditional server. But if you want, no, I don't want it to be in a serverless, rather I want it to be server full, then AWS also provide the ECS container, where you can spin up your Docker images, which is a typical way of following it. So that is your first limitation. The second limitation is that it is the read-only files. You cannot modify the container files during the execution time. That means you only have a temp file inside your temp folder. Only that can be modified inside your container image. So, and the third point is about the network port. There are no network ports. That means any invocation that happens, it should follow the Lambda, official Lambda triggering strategy. You cannot have a web port that can be invoked like 8080 and then the traffic can be listened. No, that is not feasible in this. So those are the three limitations, I would say. The major one, if you're using Lambda as Docker service. Okay, that's and you could ask me that, Tejas, why did you choose Lambda in the first? Why did you choose to make Lambda as Docker service? You could have used ECS, right? But I wanted to use Lambda because I just wanted to try something different. Ideally, this is not the right way. I should have not done with Docker image or Dockerized it. Rather, I could have made it like a typical Lambda, and that would invoke the third party tool. But I wanted to try something that's different. So don't follow this complete architecture like as it is, but this is something to try out in a differently. Okay, and this Lambda, as I said, it would be redeployed whenever there is a new image available. The latest image will be pulled for the Lambda, and it will be redeployed. For the API keys, because I'm using this third party, I did not want it to deploy it directly in the Lambda so that it is not visible. Rather, I'm fetching it from the parameter store. Why parameter store? Why not secret manager? Because secret manager is the ideal way to store your secrets for your keys, so on and so forth. But I I thought, okay, I don't want to pay much because there is no additional charges with your parameter store. You also have the feasibility to store up till 1,000 parameters for 10,000 parameters, and the parameter size, if it is less than 4 KB, I can use the parameter store. I'm good with that. But this is for the standard type, by the way. If your parameter store is of standard type, this is the configurations that you get. But generally in industry, we use secrets manager. Reason being, because it is multi-region. Parameter store is not multi-region. In case if there is a disaster happening to your region, you are done. You have lost your keys. Similarly, there is no auto rotation of your keys that is provided in secrets manager. You have to do it in parameter store by yourself. So I'm happy, I'm okay with that because I don't want to pay. That's why I'm using the parameter store. But guys, if you are trying to follow an industry fashion, please follow the secrets manager. Okay. Okay, that's the complete end-to-end picture. Let me quickly show you how you can run this. Since I said this application can be run in the locally as well. So application is called What's Next. The complete repo is available here in my repository publicly. What's Next? Backend, front end, Lambda, scripts, Terraform, and the complete README. It will go through the complete low-level READMEs as well in today's tutorial, as well how you can spin up locally, how you can spin up and deploy. We'll go all through that. Very interesting today. We'll see how we'll use Docker Hub, how we'll connect Docker Hub, so on and so forth with AWS. Just be with me, okay? We'll go through the high level and low level part as well. But overall, I forgot. I wanted to spin up locally as well. So as I said, let me see if my there are no images. Let me spin up. I'll do Docker Compose up since I'm in the backend folder. That should spin up. Okay, the container has been spinned up. And if I want to spin up the front end, I'll go to the CD front end, and then I'll spin up front end as well. So okay, so my front end is also running, and if I select, it would be served from this backend, by the way, the complete front end. Okay, that's a big advantage, right? If you have been using Docker, you can quickly spin up locally irrespective of your operating system. The typical problem of it doesn't work in my system, right? That is what Docker has been solving up till now. And if you want to spin this up, if this image locally, it works. And if you want to deploy it, we typically go with in AWS we go with ECS, but I'm using Lambda today. That's the whole point. So yeah, locally it works. Let me Docker Compose down it, remove it. Let me stop from my front end. Okay, we are good now. The where am I? Okay, excellent. So we are clear about how it is, what the complete end-to-end application does, what this application is all about, how you can spin up locally. Now we will speak about what happens when you deploy this application. Okay, what happens when you deploy this application? That's what is quite interesting. Before that, I'm just quickly checking if I have missed something. Um, okay, what happens when you deploy this? First and foremost, let's go about Docker Hub. So let's say MJ is our developer. Okay, how Peter Parker wanted to know his career, but the smart person here is MJ. She has been doing the deployment and the backend stuff. So let's say MJ wants to create a new image, or wants to work on the new image. She wants to push a new image. So MJ needs to specify what version of the image she wants to push. We will go through this. Don't worry about it. I'll make it big screen. So MJ wants to know what she wants to push a new code. She had been working on the backend. Now she has done some update. Now she wants to put or deploy the backend service. She pushes the new image onto Docker Hub. You could ask me, Tejas, why did not she directly push it to ECS? So there is an ECS container, by the way, ECR repository, right? Why did not she directly push it to ECR? Why is she pushing to Docker Hub? She could. Why is she not given an access to directly to AWS? Ideally, yeah, you can do that. But again, I thought I really wanted to keep it in a fashion where first it goes. to the Docker Hub. From Docker Hub, which is a public repository, you can have a private repository as well in Docker Hub, but I wanted to make it a public repository for your backend image. From this Docker Hub, it then travels to your ECR in the private repo. As a In the private repo, this image has been pulled. In order to pull that, there are different AWS components. We will come back to that. And once it has been pulled, then your what next backend lambda, or what's next backend lambda works, right? Which is your actual lambda service, which is acting as an API endpoint. So what are the different AWS components you need? So firstly, when you are pushing this Docker image into the Docker Hub, you need, let's say if you're pushing it the latest version, with the tag, MJ is pushing that with a tag. This image, let's say with this version 2, has been pushed into this what next backend repo, public repo. From there, you have linked the webhook URL. This webhook URL then invokes the API gateway. It was supposed to invoke the API gateway, but we have added a CDN in between. I'll come back to that. Why? So first it goes to CDN, then it goes, this invocation, the webhook invocation goes via CDN to API gateway. From API gateway, this post call, the post slash webhook, then is been then it follows or goes to the queue, which is what next back webhook sync queue, SQSQ. And from that queue, there is a lambda called what next sync worker. There are different responsibility that it has a lot of good responsibility that it does. And then it pushes, okay, I'll come back to this. What it does, it's basically parsing the queue message. It validate if the repo is from the what's next, the repo name is correct, what's next backend. And then it pulls that Docker image from the Docker Hub and then put it inside the ECR with the same tag as well. It would update the lambda with the latest image from this ECR, and so that it is pointing to the new image URI in the ECR. That's what it does. That's what's next sync worker. Overall, and what does this CloudWatch? All your logs has been captured under CloudWatch. The logs from the Lambda, basically, from the Lambdas, we also get the CloudWatch log streams. I have also ensured that in the API gateway, there are CloudWatch logs as well. Why? Because I'll tell you, I think I have made a suspense there about CDN. Why I have added CDN, why the invocation could have been directly gone through the API gateway. Why did I add CDN? I'll tell you for that. I'll tell you that. But honestly, I love the API gateway part where we add the the log streams for it so that it is visible in the CloudWatch. That really helped me to debug the network issues. The network issues that was getting failed from the Docker Hub into the AWS world. Okay. How did it help me? It was Docker Hub was continuously, the webhook URLs were continuously failing and it was not calling the API gateway. I understood it was because of network issues. And with the wipe coding, I understood that how to resolve it, because there was an approach of adding a CDN. So why did we need CDN in between the Docker Hub and the API gateway? First and foremost, the reason is quite simple. The Docker Hub failed to do the handshake with the API gateway because it follows something called multi-tenant execute API. So the TLS handshake was failing. With that, since there was no handshake, the status, if you in the code, I'll show you that. When we see in the webhook URL, it was saying n/a, not applicable. So the status code was always saying that it was not applicable as well. So okay, the status code was saying it was not applicable, so the handshake was not happening between the Docker Hub and the API gateway. So okay, that made me think that why is it not happening? And then later with CloudFront, it was able to handle this handshake flawlessly, and it ensured that the standard request from the API gateway is been invoked, so that, and also the Docker Hub receives a response of 202, the status code is 202, and it is happy. Once the invocation is received, since if you get multiple invocation, it is better to be queued that, because or else it will be lost from the API gateway to Lambda. That's why it is better to have a queue in between, right? Or else your request from the webhook URL, which is coming from the Docker Hub, can be lost. That's why there is an SQSQ to make it distributed, and to ensure the data entries or the requests are not lost. Let's say the requests are not lost, not the data entry. The requests are not requests are not lost. And whenever there is a request, as I said, there is a Lambda which does take the request, parse that, validate if the repo name is same, pull the Docker image from the Docker Hub, and pushes that image to ECR, and then updates the Lambda. What's next? Backend Lambda. So we'll quickly see, think that you are an MJ now, and how this complete process happens. Before that, I'll quickly show you how it looks in the AWS service. So first and foremost, the Docker Hub. The Docker Hub is where I have my image, the backend image. What's next? Backend. And here I have different tags. I have webhook, where I have this URL, the CDN URL, right? Here I have the view history, which is the code. As I was saying, the code was NA because the handshake was not happening, and that helped me to identify, okay, there is something wrong. And when I have enabled the logs, the CloudWatch log for the API gateway, it helped me. And then I realized that maybe I should add a CDN to handle this handshake flawlessly. Huh? Uh, that helped the CDN immediately respond to the Docker Hub that, hey, all good, take it, good, 202. From then, CDN it invokes the API gateway with the post invocation, post call invocation to the Lambda via queue. Okay, so by the way, you can add your webhooks here, your webhook URL as well. From the, let's try to deploy it. Huh? Let's try to deploy it. Uh, pup, pup, pup. So in order to deploy it, the front end deployment is quite simple. You can just see the deployment. It is here. You can just say npm deploy front end. It would sync your S3, and then invalidate the cache, and then deploy it. The deployment script is written under scripts and under deploy frontend.sch, which does that. The interesting part is the backend deployment, which we'll see now. In order to deploy the infra, you can just say npm deploy backend infra. That will deploy the pre deploy backend infra first, which will create the package Lambda first, and then go to the Terraform, do Terraform init, Terraform apply, so on and so forth. Right? That would be done by the backend infra for the infra deployment. But for the backend image deployment, like typically what MJ wants to do now, if she wants to deploy it, she needs to just run this command npm run deploy backend. That would run the script of deploy backend.sch, which will build a new Docker image and pushes the Docker image to Docker Hub. this Docker image, Docker Hub. Let's try it out. So let's say she wants to deploy 5.0.0, the new Docker image. I'll quickly update that. Okay. So this is the new image. I'll quickly go to npm run deploy backend. So first it is building the Docker image. It has deployed the Docker image. I'll refresh this. You got 5.0, less than a minute in webhook URL. Let's see if I have received this. The invocation happened. Yeah, the invocation happened to the CDN as well just now. That's good. The invocation is good. Let's see with the different flows, right? I'll go with the complete flow. It'll be much more simpler. So once the invocation has happened, it went to CDN, then it went to API gateway. Let's see the API gateway log. So under Lambda, by the way, you see there is a new deployment of what next backend Lambda service. This service, it got deployed 44 second because I have deployed, or MJ has deployed 5.0 version. We'll go through that. Okay. So what exactly has happened is let me go to the CloudWatch logs. So CloudWatch, I want to showcase you the API gateway logs, the log streams. No, not matrix. Why am I in matrix? Log groups, API gateway. What's next? Webhook. Yeah. So you see in the, I've enabled or I've added for the API gateway the CloudWatch logs as well, which got invoked here 19:15, 7:15 my time. So this invocation happened here. So once this invocation happened at the API gateway in the CloudWatch I've showcased you, then it goes to the SQSQ. What's next? Webhook sync is this queue. There is no message available because it was already consumed. From there, it goes to what's next sync Lambda. So I'll quickly go to my favorite Lambdas, serverless. So there are two Lambdas, right? What next sync worker? Let's go to this what's next sync worker. So this Lambda, as I said, it will do so many activities. It has been triggered by the queue. Okay. And this Lambda basically passes your queue message, validates the repo, pulls the Docker image as well. It would pushes to the ECR. So in the ECR, it would push and then it would create this what's next backend Lambda. So this was created just like 2-3 minutes ago, since I have pushed it. And you see the latest version of the image has been built because MJ has pushed it 5.0.0. And if I open this in the ECR, you should see that the 5.0.0 should be available, right? Which was just built now, created now. That's how the complete overall application is working. We have seen about why we have choose CDN, what is the sync, next sync worker Lambda does, Docker hub, API gateway. Okay, all is cool. What next? Maybe I'll go to the what next tsabunka.com. I'll showcase what happens in the network tab as well, so that you'll see something interesting. I'll ensure the fetch slash XR has been enabled. Refresh the page. There is no backend call. I'll quickly fill this randomly. The tree is getting built, the last chapter. Okay, now it says about the stars. Do you want to skip it? No, I just want to skip it now. I just want to reveal my destiny. Okay, it says the career match. The post API and call was good. Here, the post call was good for slash career match, right? That is what has happened here. Career match, which shows the career compute slash career match post API and call. The response is quite interesting. You see, right now you don't see the astrological factor which was in green. You remember it was Jupiter, the astrology signs that is not there. It just says about your top three careers. Now it says I'm a veteran, a veterinary doctor, whatever the choices I've seen, and the Ravenclaw holds good for me as my house, whatever the random options I've selected. And it gives you from it fetches from the third party tool, and then gives you this response, right, for the career match. And yeah, and if you want to refine this, let's say I'm Tejas, um 12 September 1994, 0800 am. Right, it has invoked, you see what I was trying to say, right? The exact same psychological answers, but with an astrology option. The complete career path was changed. The career match was changed. The counselor just told me, with a brain of astrology added, it said me that I am more suited for psychologist, and it put me inside Hufflepuff, by the way, the sorting hat. And it says that I'm a Jupiter, right? It has added this parameter as well, the astrology alignment key, to say that I'm Jupiter. I was just trying to show you the network tab, how the response changes based on what you select, and the backend API call, which goes to what's next backend lambda. By the way, this has been fetched from the front end calls this lambda, the compute slash career match, and this goes via API gateway, right? The API gateway invokes this what's next backend lambda. Okay, this is clear. What else? Okay, in terms of code, I'll quickly go through with the code as well. For the front end, it's quite straightforward. The source application, the complete components, the front end components in the application is quite here. You can just go through it. Majorly, I'm interested with the backend part. In the backend, we have seen the Docker file. I'll quickly close this. The Docker file, how the build and the composition happens for the career engine, which you have seen while spinning up. There was a career engine, right? And for the complete backend server, code has been written under command slash server main.go. And here is where we have enabled the different API endpoint for the health check and the complete main lambda, or the main handler. Then the Terraform code, where the infra holds, is here under Terraform. The main.tf I've just written in one Terraform file, wipe coded in one Terraform file. It is better practice to split it into multiple Terraform files. And then, yeah, The overall application, you can see it in the backend package.json, how to deploy that. If you want to deploy the front end or back end or infra, how we can deploy it. By the way, I will quickly push this code. Okay, I see there are bootstrap files and all that. I don't want to deploy my bootstrap files. There is one quick option. You can ignore that by adding, rather than typing it, I'll quickly say add to ignore. You see, add to ignore, bootstrap, add to git ignore. Okay, this has been added. And even the zip files, I can add it to git ignore. Yeah, you can add it by this option as well. You can quickly add it via git ignore, and this should ignore that. And yeah, that is it about the application code walkthrough, the end-to-end walkthrough, as from the Spider-Man perspective and the MJ's perspective when she's deploying the new backend image. And yeah, that's it. Thank you.